Namaste. Luke chapter 20. And he came to be on one of those yeomen as he was teaching the people in the Kodesh place and bringing the Besorah, that the chief priests and the scribes together with the elders came up and spoke to him, saying, Say to us, by what authority are you doing these? Or who is he who gave you this authority? And he answering said to them, I shall ask you one question too, and answer me. The immersion of Yah-ooh-sha, was it from heaven or from men? And they debated among themselves, saying, If we say from heaven, he shall say, Then why did you not believe him? But if we say from men, all the people shall stone us, for they are persuaded that Yah-ooh-sha was a prophet. And they answered that they did not know from where it was. And Yah-ooh-sha said to them, Neither do I say to you by what authority I do these. And he began to speak this parable to the people. A certain man planted a vineyard, and leased it to farmers, and went away for a long time. And at harvest time he sent a servant to the farmers, to give him some of the fruit of the vineyard. But the farmers beat him and sent him away empty-handed. And again he sent another servant. And they beat him too, and maltreated him, and sent him away empty-handed. And again he sent a third. And they wounded him too, and cast him out. And the owner of the vineyard said, What shall I do? I shall send my son, the beloved. They might respect him when they see him. But when the farmers saw him, they reasoned among themselves, saying, This is the heir. Come, let us kill him, so that the inheritance becomes ours. And they cast him out of the vineyard and killed him. What then shall the owner of the vineyard do to them? He shall come and destroy those farmers and give the vineyard to others. And having heard, they said, Let it not be. But he looked at them and said, What then is this that has been written? The stone which the builders rejected has become the chief cornerstone. Everyone who falls on that stone shall be broken, but on whomever it falls, it shall be pulverized. And the chief priests and the scribes sought to lay hands on him in the same hour, but they feared the people, for they knew that he had spoken this parable against them. And keeping a close watch on him, they sent spies who pretended to be obedient to catch him in a word, in order to deliver him to the rule and to the authority of the governor. So they asked him, saying, Teacher, we know that you say and teach rightly, and you are not partial to any, but teach the way of Elohim truly. Is it right for us to pay taxes to Caesar or not? But perceiving their craftiness, he said to them, Why do you test me? Show me a silver piece. Whose likeness and inscription does it have? And they answering said, Caesar's. And he said to them, Then give to Caesar what is Caesar's, and to Elohim what is Elohim's. And they were unable to catch him in a saying in the presence of the people. And marveling at his answer, they were silent. And some of the Sadducees, who denied that there is a resurrection, came to him and asked him, saying, Teacher, Moshe wrote to us that if a man's brother dies having an asha, and he dies childless, his brother should take his asha and raise up offspring for his brother. Now there were 7 brothers, and the first took an asha and died childless, and the second took her as asha, and he died childless. And the third took her, and in the same way the 7th also, and they left no children and died. And last of all the asha died too. At the resurrection then, whose asha does she become? For the 7 had her as asha. And Yah-ooh-sha answering said to them, The sons of this age marry and are given in marriage, but those who are counted worthy of attaining that age, the resurrection from the dead, neither marry nor are given in marriage, for neither is it possible for them to die any more, because they are like messengers and are sons of Elohim, being sons of the resurrection. But that the dead are raised, even Moshe showed at the bush, when he called Yahuwah, the Elohim of Abraham, and the Elohim of Ishak, and the Elohim of Jacob. Now he is not the Elohim of the dead, but of the living, for all live to him. And some of the scribes answering said, Teacher, you have spoken well. And they were not bold enough to question him any more. And he said to them, How do they say that the Mashiach is the son of Daud? For Daud himself said in the book of Psalms, Yahuwah said to my Adoni, Sit at my right hand until I make your enemies a footstool of your feet. Daud then calls him Adoni. How is he then his son? And in the hearing of all the people, he said to his talmidim, beware of the scribes, who like to walk in long robes, and love greetings in the marketplaces, and the best seats in the assemblies, and the best places at feasts, who devour widows' houses, and for a show make long prayers. They shall receive greater judgment. 21. And looking up, he saw the rich putting their gifts into the treasury. And he saw a certain poor widow putting in 2 mites. And he said, truly I say to you that this poor widow has put in more than all. For all these out of their excess have put in offerings for Elohim, but she out of her poverty has put in all that she had to live on. And as some were speaking about the Kodesh place, that it was adorned with goodly stones and gifts, he said, these that you see, the Yomim are coming in, which not one stone shall be left upon another, that shall not be thrown down. And they asked him, saying, Teacher, but when shall this be? And what is the sign when this is about to take place? And he said, see that you are not led astray, for many shall come in my name, saying, I am, and the time is near. Then do not go after them. But when you hear of fightings and unrests, do not be alarmed, for these have to take place first, but the end is not immediately. And he said to them, nation shall rise against nation, and reign against reign. And there shall be great earthquakes in various places, and scarcities of food and deadly diseases. And there shall be horrors and great signs from heaven. But before all this, they shall lay their hands on you and persecute you, delivering you up to the assemblies and prisons, and be brought before kings and rulers for my name's sake. And it shall turn out to you for a witness. Therefore resolve in your hearts not to premeditate on what to answer. For I shall give you a mouth and wisdom which all your adversaries shall not be able to refute or resist. And you shall also be betrayed by parents and brothers and relatives and friends, and some of you shall be put to death. And you shall be hated by all because of my name. But not a hair of your head shall be lost at all. Possess your lives by your endurance. And when you see Jerusalem surrounded by armies, then know that its laying waste is near. Then let those in Yehuda flee to the mountains, and let those who are in the middle of her go out, and let not those who are in the fields enter her, because these are Yomim of vengeance, to fill all that have been written. And woe to those who are pregnant, and to those who are nursing children in those Yomim. For there shall be great distress in the Eretz, and wrath upon this people. And they shall fall by the edge of the sword, and be led away captive into all Goyim. And Jerusalem shall be trampled underfoot by the Goyim, until the times of the Goyim are filled. And there shall be signs in the sun and moon and stars, and on the Eretz anxiety of Goyim, in bewilderment at the roaring of the sea, and agitation, men fainting from fear and the expectation of what is coming on the Eretz, for the powers of the Shamayim shall be shaken. And then they shall see the son of Adam coming in a cloud with power and much esteem. And when these things begin to take place, look up and lift up your heads, because your redemption draws near. And he spoke a parable to them. Look at the fig tree and all the trees. When they have already budded, observing it, you shall know for yourselves that summer is now near. So you also, when you see these things take place, know that the reign of Elohim is near. Truly I say to you, this generation shall by no means pass away, till all shall have taken place. The heaven and the earth shall pass away, but my words shall by no means pass away. And take heed to yourselves, lest your hearts be weighed down by gluttony and drunkenness and worries of this life, and that Yom come on you suddenly. For it shall come as a snare on all those dwelling on the face of all the earth. Watch then at all times, and pray that you be counted worthy to escape all this about to take place, and to stand before the Son of Adam. And he was teaching in the Kodesh place by Yom, but at Lailah he went out and stayed on the mountain of Olives. And early in the morning all the people came to him in the Kodesh place to hear him. Chapter 22. And the festival of unleavened bread drew near, which is called Passover. And the chief priests and the scribes were seeking how to kill him, for they feared the people. And Shatan entered into Yehuda, who was called a man from Kerioth, who was counted among the 12. And he went and spoke with the chief priests and captains, how he might deliver him up to them. And they were glad, and agreed to give him silver. And he promised, and was seeking an occasion to deliver him up to them, away from the crowds. And the time of unleavened bread approached when the Passover had to be slaughtered. And he sent Kepha and Yahuchanan, saying, Go and prepare the Passover for us to eat. And they said to him, Where do you wish us to prepare? And he said to them, See, as you enter into the city, a man shall meet you carrying a jug of water. Follow him into the house he enters. And you shall say to Adoni of the house, The teacher says to you, Where is the guest room where I might eat the Passover with my talmidim? And he shall show you a large, furnished upper room. Prepare it there. And going, they found it as he had said to them, and they prepared the Passover. And when the hour had come, he sat down and the 12 emissaries with him. And he said to them, With desire I have desired to eat this Passover with you before my suffering. For I say to you, I shall certainly not eat of it again until it is filled in the reign of Elohim. And taking the cup, giving thanks, he said, Take this and divide it among yourselves. For I say to you, I shall certainly not drink of the fruit of the vine until the reign of Yahuwah comes. And taking bread, giving thanks, he broke it and gave it to them, saying, This is my body which is given for you. Do this in remembrance of me. Likewise the cup also, after supper, saying, This cup is the renewed covenant in my blood which is shed for you. But see, the hand of him delivering me up is with me on the table. For indeed the son of Adam goes as it has been decreed, but woe to that man by whom he is delivered up. And they began to ask among themselves which of them it could be who was about to do this. And there also took place a dispute among them as to which of them seemed to be greater. And he said to them, The kings of the Goyim rule over them, and those who control them are called workers of good. But not so with you, but let him who is greatest among you be as the youngest, and the leader as one who serves. For who is greater, the one who sits at the table, or the one who serves? Is it not the one who sits at the table? But I am in your midst as the one who serves. But you are those who have remained with me in my trials. And I covenant for you, as my father covenanted for me, a reign to eat and drink at my table, in my reign, and to sit on thrones, judging the 12 tribes of Yisrael. And Adoni said, Shimon, Shimon, see, Satan has asked for you to sift as wheat, but I have prayed for you that your belief should not fail. And when you have turned, strengthen your brothers. And he said to him, Adoni, I am prepared to go with you, both to prison and to death. And he said, I say to you, Kepha, the rooster shall not crow at all today until you have denied three times that you know me. And he said to them, When I sent you without purse and bag and sandals, did you lack any? And they said, None at all. And he said to them, But now let him who has a purse take it, likewise also a bag. And let him who has no sword sell his garment and buy one. For I say to you that what has been written has yet to be accomplished in me, and he was reckoned with lawless ones. For that which refers to me has an end too. And they said, Adoni, look, here are 2 swords. But he said to them, That is enough. And coming out, he went to the Mount of Olives, according to usage, and his talmidim also followed him. And coming to the place, he said to them, Pray that you do not enter into trial. And he withdrew from them about a stone's throw, and falling on his knees, he was praying, saying, Father, if it be your choice, remove this cup from me. Yet not my desire, but let yours be done. And there appeared a messenger from heaven to him, strengthening him. And being in agony, he was praying more earnestly, and his sweat became like great drops of blood falling down to the ground. And rising up from prayer, and coming to his talmidim, he found them sleeping from exhaustion. And he said to them, Why do you sleep? Rise and pray, lest you enter into trial. And while he was still speaking, see, a multitude. And he who was called Yahuda, one of the 12, was going before them and came near to Yah-ooh-sha to kiss him. And Yah-ooh-sha said to him, Yahuda, do you deliver up the son of Adam with a kiss? And those around him, seeing what was about to take place, said to him, Adoni, shall we strike with the sword? And one of them struck the servant of the high priest and cut off his right ear. But Yah-ooh-sha answering said, Allow it this far. And touching his ear, he healed him. And Yah-ooh-sha said to those who had come against him, the chief priests and captains of the Kodesh place, and the elders, have you come out as against a robber with swords and clubs? While I was with you daily in the Kodesh place, you did not lay hands on me. But this is your hour and the authority of darkness. And having seized him, they led him and brought him to the house of the high priest. And Kepha was following at a distance. And when they had lit a fire in the middle of the courtyard, and sat down together, Kepha sat among them. And a certain servant girl, seeing him as he sat by the fire, looked intently at him, and said, and this one was with him. But he denied it, saying, Asha, I do not know him. And after a little while, another saw him and said, you are one of them too. But Kepha said, man, I am not. And about an hour later, another insisted, saying, truly this one was with him too, for he is a Galilean too. But Kepha said, man, I do not know what you are saying. And immediately, while he was still speaking, a cock crowed. And Adoni turned and looked at Kepha, and Kepha remembered the word of Adoni, how he had said to him, before a cock crows, you shall deny me 3 times. And Kepha went out and wept bitterly. And the men who were holding Yah-ooh-sha were mocking him, beating him, and having blindfolded him, they were stretching him on the face, and were asking him, saying, prophesy, who is it that struck you? And they said to him much more, blaspheming. And when it became Yom, the elders of the people, both chief priests and scribes, came together, and they led him into their council, saying, if you are the Mashiach, say it to us. And he said to them, if I say it to you, you will not believe it at all. And if I asked you, you would not answer me at all. From now on, the son of Adam shall sit on the right hand of the power of Yahuwah. And they all said, are you then the son of Elohim? And he said to them, you say that I am. And they said, why do we need further witness? For we heard it ourselves from his mouth. Chapter 23. And the entire assembly of them, having risen up, led him to Pilate, and began to accuse him, saying, we found this one perverting the nation, and forbidding to pay taxes to Caesar, saying that he himself is Mashiach, a king. And Pilate asked him, saying, are you the king of the Yahudim? And answering him, he said, you said it. And Pilate said to the chief priests and the crowds, I find no guilt in this man. But they were insisting, saying, he stirs up the people, teaching through all Yahudah, beginning from Galilee to this place. And when Pilate heard of Galilee, he asked if the man were a Galilean. And when he learned that he was under the authority of Herod, he sent him to Herod, who was also in Jerusalem in those Yomim. And seeing Yah-ooh-sha, Herod rejoiced greatly. For a long time he had wished to see him, because he had heard much about him, and was anticipating to see some miracle done by him, and was questioning him with many words, but he gave him no answer. And the chief priests and the scribes stood, accusing him intensely. And Herod, with his soldiers, made light of him and mocked him, dressing him in a splendid robe, and sent him back to Pilate. And on that Yom, Pilate and Herod became friends with each other, for before that they had been at odds with each other. And Pilate, having called together the chief priests and the rulers and the people, said to them, you brought this man to me as one who turns aside the people. And look, I have examined him in your presence, and have found no guilt in this man regarding the charges which you make against him. And neither did Herod, for I sent you back to him. And look, he has done none at all deserving death. Having disciplined him, then I shall release him. For he had to release one of them at the past festival. And they cried out all together, saying, away with this one, and release to us Barabbas, who had been thrown into prison for a certain uprising made in the city, and for murder. Wishing to release Yah-ooh-sha, then Pilate appealed to them again, but they were calling out, saying, impale him. And he said to them the 3rd time, why, what evil has he done? I have found no reason for death in him. Having disciplined them, then
I shall release him. But with yelling voices they insisted, asking for him to be impaled. And the voices of these men and of the chief priests were prevailing, and Pilate pronounced sentence that what they asked should be done, and he released the one they asked for, who for uprising and murder had been thrown into prison, but he handed Yah-ooh-sha over to their will. And as they led him away, they laid hold of a certain man, Shimon, a Cyrenian, who was coming from the field, and they put the stake on him to bear it behind Yah-ooh-sha. And a great number of the people were following him, and women who also were mourning and lamenting him. But Yah-ooh-sha, turning to them, said, Daughters of Jerusalem, do not weep for me, but weep for yourselves and for your children. For see, Yomim are coming in, which they shall say, Blessed are the barren, and wombs that never bore, and the breasts which never nursed. Then they shall begin to say to the mountains, Fall on us, and to the hill, Cover us, because if they do this in the great green tree, to the green tree, what is going to be done in the dry tree? And to others also, evildoers, were led with him to be put to death. And when they had come to the place called Golgotha, they impaled him there, and the evildoers, one on the right hand and the other on the left. And Yah-ooh-sha said, Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they do. And they divided his garments and cast lots, and the people were standing looking on, and the rulers were also sneering with them, saying, He delivered others, let him save himself, if he is the Mashiach, the chosen of Elohim. And the soldiers were mocking him too, coming and offering him sour wine and saying, If you are the king of the Yahudim, save yourself. And there was also an inscription written over him in letters of Greek and Roman and Hebrew, This is the king of the Yahudim. And one of the evildoers who were hanged was speaking evil of him, saying, If you are the Mashiach, save yourself and us. But the other responding rebuked him, saying, Do you not even fear Elohim, since you are under the same judgment? And we indeed rightly so, for we receive the due reward of our actions. But this one has done lawless. And he said to Yah-ooh-sha, Adoni, remember me when you come into your reign. And Yah-ooh-sha said to him, Truly I say to you today, you shall be with me in paradise. And it was now about the 6th hour, and darkness came over all the land until the 9th hour. And the sun was darkened, and the veil of the Mishkan was torn in two. And crying out with a loud voice, Yah-ooh-sha said, Father, into your hands I commit my ruach. And having said this, he breathed his last. And the captains, seeing what took place, praised Elohim, saying, Truly this man was obedient. And when all the crowds who had gathered to that sight saw what took place, they beat their breasts and went away. And all those who knew him, and the women who followed him from Galilee, stood at a distance watching this. And see, a man named Yusuf, a council member, a good and obedient man, he was not agreeing with their counsel and deed, from Ramathaim, a city of the Yahudim, who himself was also waiting for the reign of Yahuwah, he, going to Pilate, asked for the body of Yah-ooh-sha. And taking it down, he wrapped it in linen and laid it in a tomb hewn out of the rock, where no one was yet laid. And it was preparation Yom, and the Shabbat was approaching. And the women who had come with him from Galilee followed after, and saw the tomb and how his body was laid. And having returned, they prepared spices and perfumes, and they rested on the Shabbat, according to the command. How much time do I have? Okay, one more chapter. Chapter 24. And on the first yom of the week, at early dawn, they came to the tomb, bringing the spices which they had prepared, and they found the stone rolled away from the tomb. And having entered, they did not find the body of Adoni Yah-ooh-sha. And it came to be, as they were perplexed about this, that see, two men stood by them in radiant garments, and becoming frightened, and bowing their heads to the earth, these said to them, Why do you seek the living among the dead? He is not here, but has been raised. Remember how he spoke to you when he was still in Galilee, saying, the son of Adam has to be delivered into the hands of sinners and be impaled, and the third yom rise again. And they remembered his words, and having returned from the tomb, they reported all this to the 11 and to all the rest. And it was Miriam from Magdala, and Yochana, and Miriam the mother of Jacob, and the rest with them, who told this to the emissaries. And their words appeared to them to be nonsense, and they did not believe them. But Kepha arose and went to the tomb, and stooping down he saw the linen wrappings lying by themselves, and he away home, marveling at what took place. And see, two of them were going that same yom to a village called Amaus, which was 12 kilometers from Jerusalem. And they were talking to each other of all this which had taken place. And it came to be, as they were talking and reasoning, that Yah-ooh-sha himself drew near and went with them. But their eyes were restrained, so that they did not know him. And he said to them, what are these words you are exchanging with each other as you are walking, and you are sad? And the one whose name was Cleophas answering said to him, are you the lone visitor in Jerusalem who does not know what took place in it these yomim? And he said to them, what? And they said to him, concerning Yah-ooh-sha of Nazareth, who was a prophet mighty in deed and word before Elohim and all the people, and how the chief priests and our rulers delivered him to be condemned to death and impaled him. We, however, were expecting that it was he who was going to redeem Yisrael. But besides all this, today is the third yom since these things took place. But certain women of ours who arrived at the tomb early also astonished us when they did not find his body. They came saying that they had also seen a vision of messengers who said he was alive. And some of those with us went to the tomb and found it, as also the women had said, but they did not see him. And he said to them, O thoughtless ones, and slow of heart to believe in all that the prophets have spoken. Was it not necessary for the Mashiach to suffer these, and to enter into his esteem? And beginning at Musha and all the prophets, he was explaining to them in all the scriptures the things concerning himself. And they approached the village where they were going, and he seemed to be going on. But they urged him strongly, saying, stay with us, for it is toward evening, and the yom has declined. And he went in to stay with them. And it came to be, when he sat at the table with them, having taken the bread, he blessed, and having spoken, he was giving it to them. And their eyes were opened, and they recognized him, and he disappeared from their sight. And they said to each other, was not our heart burning within us, as he was speaking to us on the way, and as he was opening the scriptures to us? And rising up that same hour, they returned to Jerusalem, and found the 11 and those who were with them gathered together, saying, Adoni was truly raised, and has appeared to Shimon. And they related what took place on the way, and how he was recognized by them at the breaking of the bread. And as they were saying this, Yah-ooh-sha himself stood in the midst of them, and said to them, Shalom to you. And being startled and frightened, they thought they had seen a phantom. And he said to them, why are you troubled? And why do doubts arise in your hearts? See my hands and my feet, that it is myself. Handle me and see, for a phantom does not have flesh and bones as you see I have. And saying this, he showed them his hands and his feet. And while they were still not believing for joy and marveling, he said to them, have you any food here? And they gave him a piece of broiled fish and some honeycomb. And taking it, he ate in their presence. And he said to them, these are the words which I spoke to you while I was still with you, that all have to be filled that were written in the Torah of Musha and the prophets and the Psalms concerning me. Then he opened their minds to understand the scriptures, and said to them, thus it has been written, and so it was necessary for the Mashiach to suffer, and to rise again from the dead, the third yom, and that repentance and forgiveness of sins should be proclaimed in his name to all Goyim, beginning at Jerusalem. And you are witnesses of these things. And see, I am sending the promise of my Father upon you, but you are to remain in the city of Jerusalem until you are clothed with power from on high. And he led them out as far as Beit Aniah, and lifting up his hands he blessed them. And it came to be while he was blessing them that he was parted from them and was taken up into the sky. And they, having bowed down to him, returned to Jerusalem with great joy, and were continually in the Kodesh place, praising and blessing Elohim. Thank you very much. Namaste. In King Yah-usha's name, God bless you all. Amen. Namaste.